Hey there, we're the Menschwarmers. Thanks for joining us. It's Tuesday, October 22nd. I'm Jamie. This is Gabe.
Hello, everybody. We want to welcome you to the Menschwarmers, our Jewish sports and Our Boys recap podcast.
Oh, I haven't watched Our Boys. Is it good?
Stay tuned for the podcast and find out.
Okay. I want to thank again Nate Thompson and the Montreal Canadiens for joining us on our last episode. It was our most listened to episode.
Yep. So we understand we might have some new listeners, to which I say, welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for subscribing.
Shana Tova.
For people who are following us now after that last interview, you should know that. So, we tend to mix it up. We have a mix of interviews, live and taped, and we have some podcasts that are just me and Gabe. Or sometimes a special guest. This one's just me and Gabe.
As we are recording this on Simchas Torah. Consider this for the new people closing the book on every other podcast you've ever listened to. Yeah, and opening the new book on ours.
Close your actual books as well. They're very, that's 20th century nonsense. Get on the 21st century podcast.
Yeah, it's 5780 now. It's time to listen to podcasts.
Yeah. Is Our Boys going to be discussed later? I also have a culture corner thing to talk about, so we can come back to that.
Yes.
But Gabe, it's as I mentioned, it's Tuesday, October 22nd. Yesterday was the Canadian election. So now that we're done with that, we can focus on the things that actually matter. I'm talking about playoff baseball.
That's right. And specifically the battle between Jock Peterson and Alex Bregman.
Yeah, which never happened because Jock Peterson was eliminated in the NLDS to the Washington Nationals. Shockingly, the Dodgers got beat by the Nationals, and the Nationals then swept the Cardinals in the next round.
Let us hope this is not a prelude to Washington eliminating Jews from American history anymore.
Yikes. But on the American League side, Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros is through to the World Series. Alex didn't have a great NLCS. He was sort of a non-factor.
Nope, but he is still likely, we hope, to win the Major League MVP award. The American League MVP award.
And could have a World Series MVP, if he has a good series here.
That's right. On the other side, the Washington Nationals, I do not believe there are any Jewish.
No Jewish players on the Washington Nationals, but the owner, Ted Lerner, and the Lerner family are observant Jews. Ted Lerner apparently doesn't go to games on Friday nights.
Really?
He's that observant. So I don't know that there's anything scheduled for this Friday.
I assume Saturday afternoon as well that he doesn't go.
I would assume not too, but I'm not sure. But he's quite observant. So this is a battle between one Jewish player and a Jewish ownership group.
Interesting about Ted Lerner. He has been married since 1951. He's been married for
good for him.
68 years because he's been alive for 94 of them.
Wow, that's impressive.
He is a very old man. He's got 9 grandchildren.
Right.
They've married into the Lenkin family, the Cohen family, the Tannenbaum family. So they're really keeping it in the tribe.
Yeah, that's great. And shout out to them. And they were the people who brought it from Montreal, which is a darker part in the sports history, but the Washington community has definitely embraced the team. It's a big
Ted Lerner,
big fan base there.
Is a very big donor to the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot, Israel, known as one of the world's first and most successful particle accelerators, as well as the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. So I have friends who went to the Technion. I assume we have friends that went to Hebrew U at some point. So let's assume that if the Washington Nationals are going to win, that means Hebrew U is going to get their new library.
Okay.
That they've been going for so long. So do we want Alex Bregman or do we want Hebrew U to get that new lab benches they've been saving up so long for?
Hard to say. I mean, I think people can make up their minds about who to root for, the Jewish player, the Jewish owners. Lots to root for there. Nobody else Jewish as far as we can tell in the coaching staff organization. Although Al Rosen was the general manager of the Astros for a while.
Yeah, what years?
I think back in the 70s or 80s.
Right, a long time ago.
Yeah, a while ago. There's one other baseball-related thing I want to look into, discuss. So, Tablet Magazine, online Jewish magazine, Armin Rosen is the name of the author who published an article about the Sandy Koufax curse.
Right.
So that is that Sandy Koufax, legendary Jewish baseball player, didn't play on Yom Kippur. And there's the idea that baseball players shouldn't be playing on Yom Kippur, the high holidays. And as it happened, the 3 Jewish baseball players in the moment who were all on teams that had games on Yom Kippur, either Erev Yom Kippur or the day of, their teams lost this year. And that was Jock Peterson, who we already mentioned, Alex Bregman, and Max Fried of the Atlanta Braves.
Do we get to count both Kol Nidre and the night of Yom Kippur
as
both being on Yom Kippur?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So I was curious about this. I mean, this is an anomaly. I mean, first of all, it's not every year that Yom Kippur falls in the playoffs. But
right. It is also
people are gonna
25 hours, so that's an argument in favor of both games counting.
But I looked into it, and I wanted to see if there's any validity to this. Do people play poorly on Yontifs? So I looked into it for the last many years.
Menschwarmers does some data journalism.
That's
here.
right. We're not just looking things up on our phones while the podcast goes on.
Yeah, exactly. The classic Jewish sport of math.
So I only looked at playoff appearances because regular season doesn't really matter. I mean, you win or lose a baseball game, doesn't really matter. Playoff games matter. So here's what I got for Jews recently. Jock Peterson's played in one Yom Kippur game, October 11, 2016. He went 1 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs that were crucial in the Dodgers winning 6-5. Going back a little further, Hank Greenberg never played in a Yom Kippur game. Bregman's first one was this year. Kevin Youkilis never played in a Yom Kippur game. Sam Fuld never did. Ian Kinsler played in one. October 8, 2011, he was 1 for 2 with a walk and an RBI, and his team won 4-3.
It's a good game.
So that was, I believe, in an ALDS with the Rangers. Ryan Braun, this is a Kol Nidre one, October 7th, 2011, with the Brewers. Went 2 for 3 with a double, walk, and the Brewers won 3-2.
Oh, so you should tell Mr. Armin that perhaps his conjecture is false.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more here. Brad Osmus has played in 2 games in 2005 on air of Yom Kippur and the day of. One was a win, one was a loss. Gabe Kapler played in 2003 playoff Yom Kippur game. That was a win. So he only was a pinch runner in that game, so maybe that's part of it.
That counts. But so counting previous years and this year, what is the overall record of Jewish players on Yom Kippur?
I mean, of those players that I looked up, this is sort of recent years, but their records, this is going back to 2000, was 5-1.
Oh.
Other guys, Scott Feldman, Sean Green, Kevin Pillar, Scott Schoenweiss never played on Yom Kippur as far as I could tell. This is just sort of the happenstance because sometimes the games are September when there is no playoff baseball. But as far as we can tell, if we want to make an index of these things for the last 25 years or so, Jewish players have overwhelmingly won on Yom Kippur.
So maybe Hashem understands.
Maybe they do. I mean, counting the games this year, it would make it a little more even.
People are really into the athletic benefits of intermittent fasting.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps a professional athlete who has spent the day fasting can standing in shul can challenge that, big Gemar Chatima Tova energy of when the break the fast moment happens.
I think that's right. I think especially if you're a hitter and you're standing in there against someone who throws a curveball and they throw you a nice juicy meatball right down the middle of the plate, you're smacking that thing out of the park because you don't want it anywhere near you. You can't have the temptation.
I wonder if, the sunlight happens. As soon as the big lights turn on, Ian Kinsler is just running for a bagel and cream cheese spread that's already out for him in the dugout.
That's right. Quite. You can imagine, these guys eat a lot after a game sometimes, especially like in the summer heat and sweat a lot and burn a lot of calories. But after a Yom Kippur where they're fasting, you can't imagine how much these guys could put away.
Oh, yeah.
So
especially mid-game. Yeah, he's feeding himself the lox, going slices upon slices upon slices.
So, we're happy to look at more information if anybody has it for football players or other sports players playing on Yom Kippur. But until then, I mean, I think Tablet, unfortunately, respect the journalism they do, but they're not exactly Jewish fan graphs yet. And they fell victim to a classic problem with baseball statistics of the small sample size. You can't just look at one. You can't just look at Yom Kippur 5780. You got to look at all the 5700 Yom Kippurs when Jews have been playing baseball and really see how they've done. So Sandy Koufax, first of all, alive and well. Too busy living his life and enjoying his retirement to be haunting anyone. The Sandy Koufax curse, I think we're going to put that one to bed. And not worry too much if there's Jewish baseball players playing on Yom Kippur in the future.
That's right. An update. I know of another sport. We spoke to Nate Thompson of the Montreal Canadiens. He indicated he would be playing on Yom Kippur to help the team. Unfortunately, the Montreal Canadiens lost that night, but they did lose in overtime.
Okay, that's a point.
And our friend Mr. Thompson did record an assist.
Oh,
that's nice. A point too.
I saw that he scored an assist the other day when I was watching highlights. It was on a Nick Suzuki goal, I'm going to say. Oh, yeah, I think he's the one on the Canadiens.
What's the
Who is related to David Suzuki, by the way.
Really?
Canadian I don't know what his role is. Environmentalist?
What's the type of a relationship where you follow somebody on social media or there's a celebrity and like you believe you're actual friends,
Right.
but they have no idea who you are?
Yeah, I know when you follow each other, it's called a mutual.
Yeah.
But that's like because you're both invested in each other's lives.
But
I guess you're just among the following, right?
But I don't think it's among the followings. I think you have like the personal distortion that you think they would be your friend if you knew them in real life.
Yeah, there's a lot of, increasingly more writers on Twitter who seem to be like making a real career out of that, of just like, people react to their stories and they do sort of interact with their fans a little bit, but like Shea Serrano is that type of guy, or Nicole Cliff or something like that. He
pretends, acts as if everyone's his friend from day one. I feel that about Nate Thompson. Because he honored us with his appearance on this show. We are going to follow his career closely. I'm getting a note from my producer, Alex. It is called a parasocial interaction where you feel like you know someone on social media.
Thanks, Alex.
Just by their profile.
Oh, that's good. Good fact checking. I mean, it happens in normal life with non-celebrities as well. Just like people who you haven't seen in years, but tend to post too much. You're the Pierre Delectos, as it were.
The Pierre's Delecto,
who are just posting too much on social. Who, you have an asymmetric relationship about how much you know about them compared to how much they know about you.
I'd like to publicly apologize to my fiance for saying the phrase Pierre's Delecto. She has insisted I stop pluralizing the first word of multiple words, and I have caught myself. So my apologies.
That's too bad.
So we're going to do something interesting here. Tonight, as we record this on Simchas Torah, is the Toronto Raptors, a sports team that is followed closely by myself, James, Alex, some of our listeners, and presumably their Jewish friends and family.
Sure.
And that's the Toronto Raptors. And tonight, the Toronto Raptors are receiving their championship rings after winning the NBA championship in 2019 in June. And the ring ceremony being presided over by both Adam Silver and Larry Tannenbaum, two members of the tribe.
The commissioner of the NBA and the owner of the Toronto Raptors, respectively.
So we're going to go to sort of a live on tape show where we are commenting on this broadcast.
Yeah, you get that real experience of our Jewish commentary on the ring ceremony.
Exactly. Consider us your nebbishy uncles on either of your shoulder, whispering into your ear.
Who won't shut up when you're just trying to watch TV. And there it is. There's the trophy showing on TV right now. Obviously, we saw it last year. We talked about it last time when the Raptors initially won, and the trophy was given to Larry Tannenbaum, the Jewish owner of the Toronto Raptors. He lifted it up and yelled, "Hugbah!"
It has been Hugbud.
It has been Hugbud. I think it's the same trophy. I don't know. Are there multiple trophies?
I think there's one Larry O'Brien trophy that they just sort of hand around for everyone.
I don't know. I mean, I know like some trophies, like you get it to keep, right? Like the World Series trophy is like, you get one. Right?
You get one, yeah. I bet you get one. There's probably a replica.
I don't think it's like the Stanley Cup. Yeah.
Right.
No. I mean, I think there's a new one every year. That's the new trophy every year. I don't think it's like the Stanley Cup where it changes hands every year.
Right. Maybe. Yeah, you're probably right.
We might have to look into that. So showing some highlight package from last year. Good to see all the guys. A lot of Pascal.
Not a lot of Jewish players in this highlight package.
No, but that's the way it is. It's interesting to think about what's going to happen when Kawhi Leonard comes back to town.
Yep.
I think I would imagine, they'll do some sort of ring ceremony, right? Like he'll get his ring.
Yeah, they'll give him a ring.
I would imagine it'll be like sustained applause, like everybody standing, recognizing how great he was and how instrumental he was to winning the championship. And then I hope like sustained booing, like we give him the Vince Carter treatment. Like every time he touches the ball, we start booing. Like, I don't really have any bad will towards the man, but on the other hand, he did leave. Like, we gotta boo. That just seems to be right.
No, but I mean, showing this pure unbridled joy from that Game 7 shot, right? He created a moment, and he brought us a championship, which you can trade so many years of misery for to make it sort of worth it.
Well, I'm not really willing to trade misery at this point. I think the Raptors are gonna be good this year. I mean, it's hard to say how much. It's a relatively different team without Kawhi, but they did well without him last year.
So between Drake and Larry O'Brien and the Hugbah and I guess a lot of the Jewish community for which we're a part, are the Raptors the most Jewish team in the NBA?
Well, I looked into this a little bit and wanted to look into whether or not there's any Jewish players, coaches, executives. So let's start from the bottom as the Raptors montage of them playing against Golden State. such a show. So starting with players, we have someone who's currently a member of the Golden State Warriors. And as far as we can tell, the only person potentially with Jewish heritage in the NBA at the current moment. And that is Willie Cauley-Stein.
Willie Cauley-Stein. I mean, Stein, I get it. I hear it. Cauley?
Yeah. So
also Jewish.
Cauley, not Jewish.
Okay.
The Stein part is maybe.
Yep.
So here's what we looked into it. So Willie Cauley-Stein, formerly of the Sacramento Kings, formerly from Kansas University, now with Golden State Warriors. Oh, he's injured right now. Might not play for the first couple weeks.
Yep.
So one source I found online was a Kansas radio blog that said that he's not Jewish and that the Steins are German-based Steins.
So like the beer Stein.
Exactly. So Kansas has some, German community there. So they were Kansas German Steins and that they weren't Jewish.
Like your Jaden Schwartz's from Saskatchewan, it said. That Midwestern German Stein group.
Yeah, exactly, which is something we've run into before when we're trying to do some IDing. However, I reached out to the writer of that article, Mr. Jonathan Miller, and I said, we're trying to get to the bottom of this if he had any information. And he said it's been a few years and I don't remember the source. So he said that he read somewhere that the Stein family was the German Steins, but he didn't have any source on that. Now, contrast that to a magazine profile in a local Sacramento magazine, Sacktown Mag, which does indicate that his maternal grandparents, who actually raised him, are Jewish.
Interesting. So he was raised by his grandparents, the Steins.
Yeah. And that article on Sacktown Mag by Hillary Louise Johnson, we should shout out, and we'll post a link to it on Twitter, I'm sure, mentions that his maternal grandparents, Norma and Val Stein, raised him from his youth, and that he actually adopted the name Cauley-Stein as a tribute to them because his name previously was just Willie Cauley.
I feel like there's a sort of age-old Jewish man that has a female name. Like Val, or like Vivian.
Yeah.
Or
Val is a cool name.
Yeah, Val's a cool name.
You have to be a pretty tough guy to pull it off. Maybe boy named Sue style. So
yes, exactly.
So
very much a boy named Sue.
Let me add to that. I reached out to Willie Cauley-Stein on Twitter. I slid right in there trying to get to the bottom of it, right to the source. I unfortunately did not get a response either. For many reasons, I can understand why.
Maybe he's been busy for Simchas Torah the last few days and can't get back to you. He's spent a long time in the sukkah and wasn't checking his DMs.
Maybe. But if anyone has any further information, we've looked into this, we've researched as much as we can, but we're still at a loss. I think that we'll call him Jewish enough for the time being and leave it at that. But as far as we know, he's the only Jewish player. Again, if anybody has any information about any other current NBA player who's Jewish, obviously there's been some in the past, Jordan Farmar and Omri Kasipi most recently.
You might remember the Jordan Farmar discussion from our last episode, 2 episodes ago. We spoke with director Max Winkler.
Right.
He was a big fan of Jordan Farmar's, both for his Los Angeles connection and his Judaism.
That's it for Jewish players. Moving up a step, we have head coaches. And currently right now, we got Bubkas. We got not one Jewish head coach in the NBA.
Oh, and we can talk about Max Bubkas, the former coach of the New York Renegades. But first, here we've got Larry Tannenbaum and Adam Silver, 2 fine gentlemen of the tribe.
Yeah. Being introduced and honored here as they raise the banner, pretty exciting. I mean, they haven't really raised a championship banner at the what's now the Scotiabank Center at all. I mean, they've raised the old Leaf ones, but those don't really count.
I think there are a couple of Toronto Rock banners.
Yeah,
but we don't need to discuss that. I don't know if a Jewish person has ever picked up a lacrosse stick, let alone won a professional championship with it.
Yeah. So Adam Silver's talking now. Obviously, the commissioner of the NBA, noted Jew. Noted Jew just by looking at him, I would say. That's a first glance Jew right there.
My a friend of my father's used to say it belonged on the census where it said, your religion, Christian, Jewish, obviously Jewish. Yeah. And that's where Adam Silver would fit in.
Well, he's speaking about Larry Tannenbaum and what a fantastic ownership group it is. Saying all the right things. Adam Silver's gotten into some controversy recently. Everything that's been going on with China, Daryl Morey's tweet, and I thought Adam Silver had a pretty good, tack regarding everything.
Well, I mean, he sort of said so after the fact about how, it was much worse. We could have done worse. We split the difference. Although here's what I don't quite understand about this, and maybe it's not so Jewish, but it definitely has a lot to do with politics and identity. I don't fully understand. I'm sure Daryl Morey knew what he was doing. Is there a single team in the NBA that has a bigger history with China?
No, and also he went to MIT and is just widely acknowledged as one of the smartest guys in the NBA. He's not uneducated about China. But I think Adam Silver's comment the other day, which is basically that they pushed back against some of the China overbearing, was good. And maybe they didn't handle it as tactfully as they could in the first 24 hours or 48 hours, but eventually they put out a good statement and they said they stood behind Maury at the end of the day.
Yep.
And they may lose some profit out of it. They may lose some of the Chinese market. If that happens, it happens. I think they were willing to take a stand to a certain degree without being too overt.
I think so. Now they're playing the song "Big Rings" by noted Jewish person Drake.
Yes, and showing a very blinged out ring. Not sure who made the ring. Possibly a Jewish jeweler. Wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't be surprised if a Jewish person had handled the diamonds inside of it at one point or another. Perhaps the gold as well.
Yeah. And here's Masai Ujiri, president.
He's on the board now.
Yeah. Hugging Adam Silver. Great moment. Nice to see Masai Ujiri on an NBA floor without getting accosted by some asshole police officer. Some roided up police officer in the Bay Area who, is scared of a black man in a suit. So nice to see Masai just enjoying this moment. He's got his fist raised in the air. It's fantastic.
Got his African pride bracelet on too.
Man, I love Masai so much.
Oh, he's the best.
He's just he can eat for free. I don't know if I don't know if you can make a non-Canadian citizen an Order of Canada, but he should be made an Order of Canada, whatever the highest level is. The rings are absurd, by the way. Let's just say.
Like any professional sports ring.
Yeah, we've talked before. Not on this podcast, but a friend of ours works for the Toronto FC, and because it's a MLSE organization, he's entitled to get a ring as well. And I believe is getting maybe not the fanciest ring possible, but a ring. Right. Yeah. So just all the executives coming out. I'm sure it'll be a little more raucous for the coaches and then for the players. So get them last. I assume Kyle gets the hammer.
I would assume so.
I think that's got
Kyle
be right.
Lowry. We're speaking of the probably the longest tenured and highest paid Raptor ever.
This is nice. It's a really nice moment for all the guys to just be able to come out and be acknowledged by the crowd. I mean, they showed the videos before of everybody, and the stadium was definitely full for this. It's a full 40 minutes before the game started. Patrick Mutombo, assistant coach, coming out. I believe
not Jewish.
Not Jewish. I believe related to Dikembe Mutombo, but I'm not positive.
Nate Bjorkgren. He could be one of those sneaky Jews, like a
Yofet Koto, Cameroonian Jew.
Exactly.
It's
or
possible.
Scarlett Johansson, that type of thing.
Sure, possible. Sergio Scariolo coming out, another assistant coach. Really diverse group of assistant coaches, the Raptors. I think has been one of their benefits. That's something they've been doing for a long time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps with the multicultural sort of aspect that the team will always have, signing a lot of international free agents. Something that we on the Benchwarmers, we support sort of as global citizens and believe in. We are globalists, after all, in every sense of the term.
Well, if they're going to call us that, then we're going to embrace it. And here's the man, Nick Nurse, big boy from Iowa or whatever part of the Midwest he's from, coming out, hugging Silver, giving a very white handshake hug combo.
I believe he just did a Ric Flair strut and woo.
I gotta say, Larry Tannenbaum looks like the proudest Zadie in the world right now. He looks like he's giving a kiss to the bar mitzvah boy with each of these guys who comes out. Where it's
every single one, yeah.
It's like as if he was turning Nick Nurse and said, "You did so good up there. You had all the pronunciations great. The bracha was fantastic."
Yeah,
he just looks like beaming from eye to eye.
Maybe he during the bar mitzvah he read, the piece. He read like an Amidah.
Yeah.
In honor of his grandchild, and now he's very excited for it as well.
Yeah, so just great to see Larry, really the architect in so many ways of the Raptors' existence, and bringing in Masai, bringing in giving him the power to make the trade last year, and getting rid of Dwayne Casey and bringing in Nick Nurse, which probably had a big deal to do with it as well. And just being the face of the franchise, so it makes you proud as a Jew to have him as the face of a franchise, Larry.
Of course, and he's very visible. I mean, we'd love to have him on this podcast anytime if he's listening. I believe he is a patron of our parent organization.
I believe so. OG Anunoby, coming out. Didn't play in the finals because he was injured, but obviously deserves a ring. He's going to be a big part of the Raptors season this year.
Norm Powell with a little jig,
celebrating.
Norm. I believe that Norm's party has not ended yet.
Yeah, Norm was definitely one of the better Raptors on the parade float guys.
Yep.
In terms of how much he was partying. Obviously, no one can touch the Spanish giant, Marc Gasol.
I met him on Saturday.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in a beer line at the Toronto FC game, and he was walking by. People were parting like the Red Sea.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
Clapping him as he went, and I reached out and stuck out my hand, and he grabbed my elbow with his fingertips and my the rest of my hand with his palm.
Wow.
And we shook hands.
That's great.
And gave a little fist bump. And then he went on and we watched the game.
All right, let's take it to the Raptors house for the starters coming in. And here we go.
You were right, Jamie, with the hammer, freshly haircutted, Kyle Lowry himself. Again, not a Jewish man, but someone who us in the Canadian Jewish News love. And watching Larry and Kyle pose together with the ring. Larry just proposed to Kyle, put the ring on him, and gave him a big kiss. Brought him in. They're hugging. And they're proud of each other.
Larry Tannenbaum tonight is like the definition of nachas. He's just so much pride and so much joy with all these guys that he's giving rings to, or that he's giving them their rings and they're all admiring them and putting them on. Presumably they haven't gotten them yet. Like this is the first time for them, and now they can sit in a safety deposit box for most of them for the rest of their lives, or some of them until they run up enough debt that they need to sell them.
That's right. Kyle Lowry
giving a speech now.
Let's listen in.
Yeah.
We got this special thing up there, right there. We about to unveil. Let's count this down. We're gonna go for 5, and we're gonna unveil this thing. Y'all ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow, and they've just unveiled the banner. Toronto Raptors 2019 World Champions. It's quite big.
We are the champions playing in the background.
Yeah.
It drops. What happens to one of those big sheets when they reveal it? Does it just hang and dangle for a while, or is it going over the crowd?
That's a souvenir. That's the foul ball.
That's right.
For basketball, as far as it goes.
Larry has stopped smiling, is now just looking up and chewing his gum.
Yeah. This is
It's
very
all
exciting,
business.
though.
Wow, their names.
Yeah, their names are all along the side. That's great.
Serge is
crying. That's beautiful. We love to see. You love to see it. I mean, I would say one notable absence from today's broadcast so far. No shots at Drake. I assume he's there, but maybe they got the notes last year about not showing Drake too much on TV because we haven't seen him yet, and like, there's no way he's not living it up and pretending like he was part of the team that won that championship.
Yeah, we have heard his music several times throughout the night, though.
Yeah, that's right. But everyone's just showing off their rings, really living it up. I mean, it's hard to imagine being able to go from this to playing a basketball game in 15 minutes, but I guess they have to. These guys are pros, so I guess they'll do that. I mean, it's the New Orleans Pelicans, and Zion Williamson's out, so I don't think it'll be much of a challenge. But
they all seem extremely overwhelmed, and that's very beautiful. It's a big moment of nachas for so many fans here.
Yeah, everybody's showing off their rings, holding out. Very exciting.
And that'll do it for our live watch of the Raptors championship ring ceremony, something that Canadian sports fans don't get to enjoy very often, and especially not Jewish ones.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, tried to highlight the Jewish aspect of this, but, we are the Canadian Jewish News. Happy to rep our local sports team that we all love so much. Well, thanks for joining us in that live taping. There were a few Jewish-adjacent people in the NBA we didn't get a chance to discuss. The first one is someone who's supposed to be playing in this game but is injured. I'm talking about the number 1 overall pick. I'm talking about a great Mike Jacobs All-Star. I'm talking about Zion Williamson.
Zion Williamson.
Not a Jew.
Not a Jew.
Not at all Jewish as far as you can tell, but he was named Zion after Mount Zion.
Yep. So, I mean, if he was Jewish, his name could be Israel Ben William.
Sure. I mean, his name could be Zion. I feel like there's plenty of Zions. There's plenty of Zionas.
Yeah, there's Zion. And Zion, I feel, is like a last name. Yeah. I grew up with a kid named Ben Zion.
Yeah, sure. It's all the same thing. But he was named after Mount Zion, just outside of Jerusalem, which is, sort of synecdoche for all of Israel. But Zion Williams, big Mike Jacobs All-Star.
Absolutely.
I think I might have mentioned on the live taping there's no Jewish NBA coaches at the moment, but there have been some in the past.
There are a couple of executives, the president of the basketball operations for the Los Angeles Clippers, and who do not serve kosher food, as a reminder. Right. And former head coach of several NBA teams is Lawrence Frank. Lawrence Frank, interesting story, grew up playing for both a JCC team and a Catholic youth organization team.
Oh, cool.
So he was the rare Jewish athlete that was so good, he didn't have to be Jewish.
I feel like any adult named Lawrence is automatically Jewish.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
Lawrence Kasdan.
Then again, most Larrys I feel like are Jewish as well, but maybe I'm just thinking that because of Larry David.
Larry David.
Yeah.
Lawrence David.
Yeah. And one more to shout out, Kobe Altman, who's currently the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Kobe Altman.
Yeah, Kobe Altman, Jewish.
C-O-B-Y or K-O-B-E?
No, K-O-B-Y.
K-O-B-Y. Okay, so named after not the beef.
No, not named after the beef, and not named after his contemporary, the more famous Kobe Bryant, who's just a few years older than he is. But Kobe Altman, raised in Brooklyn, and I'm not sure exactly what his background is, but he's Jewish, and he's been the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers more or less since LeBron left. He was definitely on the team. He was definitely part of the executive
championship team.
Yeah, the 2016 championship team. He became the GM in 2017. That's right. So he's the Cavs GM. Cavs not looking great. Might be have to do a little bit with the ownership group, and the only good player they've ever had leaving.
Is Dan Gilbert Jewish?
I believe we've looked into this, and he is, but I'm not sure, and we might need to fact check that.
I believe he is. We'll have our Alex producer check on that. But I wonder if, given that he is, almost single-handedly responsible for spreading the accountant profession and something that anyone can do
right.
through Quicken software. He is Jewish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Detroit.
I mean, he did invent QuickBooks.
Yep. He was such a good accountant, he let everyone else be an accountant.
That seems a little too on the nose, but I guess he's Jewish. So I think that's all we have for NBA content at the moment. As we said before, if there's other Jewish NBA stories, then we need to. We're happy to know about those. Our producer Alex is bringing to our attention a story from the Times of Israel saying the Jewish-owned Quicken loans now kosher for Orthodox borrowers.
It is a money lender that I guess
is now halachic compliant.
Follows the Talmud.
So for any Jews concerned about usury, now you can get a Quicken loan.
But Jamie, does the Talmud not say that thou shalt treat thine free agent superstars weller than thy brother?
It may well. I don't know that the Talmud gets into free agency so much. At least not in the way we're talking about it, but I'm sure you could apply some Talmudic lessons to the virtues of signing and trading players.
No, I'm sure there were some Hittite goat farmers where one of them wanted to leave and join the Bedouins.
Sure.
And the owner of the goat pasture had to strike a deal.
Sure. My Mishnah learning is mostly reflective of there being a lot of rules around your penalty for this is you have to give someone a chicken. And your penalty for that is you must give someone a goat.
Right.
So I don't know how that applies now, but I feel like the mid-level trade exemption is probably the modern day goat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When they trade cap room or perhaps Dan Gilbert. Protected picks. Exactly. Dan Gilbert wanted to win the championship. So Andrew Wiggins was a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, given all the minutia and complicated rules of the NBA CBA and salary cap and trading rules and all that, you'd think there would be more Talmudic scholars who would have made it as NBA executives.
Absolutely,
really parse it out and try and understand the basis of it and the justice of making trades with players and all that.
Well, I mean, I know it's been a long time since Jews have had high priests.
Sure,
but I mean, we could consider Adam Silver and before him David Stern as the high priest of the NBA being the temple period, the existence of pro sports. Who would be the Herodotus in this situation?
Okay, I think we've probably taken this metaphor really way further than it probably should have gone in the first place, and I think we should probably sign off there before we get into too much more trouble.
I could go deep on Oracle Arena being the real Masada, where the dynasty finally ends after years and years of holding it strong. It had to end sometime for the Golden State Warriors, as it did for the Jews in Masada.
We'll have to come up with a full typology for biblical locations and the history of Jewish history imposed on an NBA in a sort of Bill Simmons-ish way, except to Judaism instead of pop culture.
Exactly. I mean,
Kevin Durant is really the Judah Maccabee of the NBA, right?
That's exactly right. Plus, think about it. We've got great Warriors. We've got Phoenicians. Those are old-time Jews.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the old Jews living in Phoenix, probably at the Suns games.
That's exactly right. Presumably there were some Jews who were mavericks.
Okay.
At some point. I don't know if there are any Jews at NASA or have there ever been, but if Jesus could fly, he was Jewish. That's essentially a rocket.
All right. Again, I think this metaphor is really, we're straining it here. So
no, there was heat back in the Middle East in the Temple period. There was a lot of heat. There were some wizards.
Okay. Anyways, I think we're getting off the rails a little bit there, so it's probably a good time to sign off.
We just on the rails, man.
As always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. You can find us as always at cjnews.com. You can follow us on Facebook at the CJN Podcast Network, and follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers.
Please find us on iTunes or on Spotify or on Stitcher or Google Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. We're on all of them.
Yeah, I know the high holidays are over, but feel free to reach out to your Jewish relatives, recommend the podcast, pass it along. We've got a good catalog now, 15 episodes in our bank that you can listen to. Lots of things that people might be interested in, the history of Jews in boxing, tennis, things like that.
Absolutely. And if, I know the high holidays are over again, but if you find your time perhaps at a bagel place with your father with not much to talk about, we're a pretty good topic of conversation. And from what I can tell, dads really love us.
That's right. So we'll see you guys soon. Take care, and Happy New Year again.